Eduardo had played his violin on the same corner of Avenida Corrientes for nearly a decade. He knew which hours brought foot traffic. He knew which tourists paused and which ones didn't. He also knew that most people didn't really hear the music. They only saw a young man with calloused hands and tired shoes bowing before the rush of the city. But once, he was a boy with dreams and a home. His father, Armando, was an accountant at a multinational logistics firm, the kind of job that paid just enough for dignity. Eduardo remembered how his father carried his briefcase like a sacred object, how he helped Eduardo tune his first violin with shaking, overworked fingers, how he always said, "Music tells the truth no one dares to say." Then came the audit. Armando had discovered discrepancies in company reports, offshore accounts, manipulated invoices, numbers that didn't add up. He reported it to his superiors. 2 weeks later, he was gone. Downsizing, they said. But at home, Eduardo watched his father unravel, jobless, blacklisted. The company's legal team accused him of misconduct to cover their tracks. No firm in Buenos Aires would hire a man with a shadow like his. The family savings vanished. The apartment was sold. They moved to a cramped flat with water stains on the ceiling and bars on the windows. Eduardo's mother took overnight shifts in a bakery. His father fell into silence, then into sickness. Pneumonia, the quiet kind that takes men when no one is watching. At 17, Eduardo was alone with a violin and a mother too tired to cry. He started playing in the street. It paid just enough to survive. Some days he skipped food to afford new strings. Other days he played until his fingers bled. He never spoke of his father, but each note carried the grief. Then came that day. It was winter. Eduardo stood near the entrance of a metro station, his coat thin and frayed. A luxury SUV pulled up nearby. A man stepped out, tall, tanned, American, designer shoes, loud voice. He joked with his driver as if the world were a stage made only for him. He stopped, watched Eduardo for a moment, then dropped a large bill into the violin case, maybe to show off. But as he walked away, a folder slipped from his briefcase. Eduardo picked it up, jogging to return it, but before calling out, he glanced at the label. Hawthorne Global Logistics, Confidential. His blood froze. That was the name, the company that fired his father, the one that ruined everything. He opened the folder just enough to see reports, familiar formatting, financial terms, strategy briefs. His stomach twisted. Was this fate? A coincidence? Or something more? That night, Eduardo didn't sleep. He searched the name. Benjamin L. Hawthorne, CEO of Hawthorne Global. Same man, same company, same trail of destruction. Eduardo didn't return the folder. Instead, he began reading it, studying it, and then planning.
Eduardo didn't have a degree in business. He didn't speak fluent English, but pain and memory have a way of sharpening the mind. Every night, after playing his violin on the street, he studied the contents of the confidential folder. It wasn't just financial data. It was strategy, expansion plans, partner lists, loopholes.
Eduardo copied them into a cheap spiral notebook, labeling every section, cross-referencing with articles, names, policies. His father had once said, "Truth is a code. It just needs to be translated." So Eduardo translated. He taught himself accounting terms, took free online courses in business ethics and corporate fraud, used library computers until closing, applied for a work-study scholarship at a community institute and was accepted. By day, he was a janitor in a bank. By night, he studied finance. By year 3, he had a diploma. By year 5, he had a job at a data analytics startup that specialized in transparency and anti-fraud systems. He never told anyone why he applied. He just worked, quietly, methodically, becoming the team's lead forensic analyst in under 2 years. Then, one night, while reviewing a list of flagged clients, he saw it. Hawthorne Global Logistics, a new office in Sao Paulo, a merger with a shadowy shipping contractor, patterns eerily familiar. Eduardo didn't hesitate. He compiled a 40-page internal report citing irregularities, potential offshore laundering, and systemic labor violations. The evidence was airtight. It triggered a chain reaction. The startup launched a formal investigation. Then government regulators stepped in. International watchdogs picked it up. In less than 6 months, Hawthorne Global's stock plummeted. Several executives were indicted. Operations across Latin America were suspended. But Eduardo wasn't done. He flew to Buenos Aires, not to celebrate, not to gloat, but to attend the auction. Hawthorne's former headquarters, the glass tower where his father once worked, was being liquidated. Eduardo placed a silent bid and won. He turned the top floor into a non-profit called ARCO, short for Armonía and Code. It trained youth from underserved neighborhoods in digital literacy, music, and financial ethics. A new generation of kids, some barefoot, some brilliant, now learned how to decode power. One day, Eduardo stood in the same hallway where his father had been fired. He didn't feel triumph. He felt peace. Years later, at a memorial for whistleblowers in Latin America, Eduardo was asked what justice meant to him. He said, "Justice isn't about revenge, it's about memory. My father didn't die poor. He died erased. I just made sure the world remembered who he was." And every year, on his father's birthday, Eduardo does something quiet. He walks to that same corner on Avenida Corrientes, opens his violin case, and plays a single song, the first piece his father ever helped him learn. No stage, no cameras, just music and memory. Eduardo didn't seek revenge, he sought remembrance. Today, the office that once fired his father trains young people to build ethical futures. And every year, Eduardo plays a single song. No cameras, no stage, just truth. What would you have done in his place?
Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Resilient Stories for more real tales of justice, memory, and second chances. Because sometimes the quietest songs echo the loudest.